Mark's hands trembled as he placed the doctor's note on Diane's desk. The office fell silent, every eye fixed on their interaction. No one had expected this revelation, least of all Diane, who had spent weeks questioning his commitment to the company. As she read the diagnosis, her face drained of color. This wasn't just about missed deadlines or early departures anymore. This was about life and death, and a little girl who might lose her only parent. If you're moved by stories of misunderstanding, redemption, and the strength of the human spirit, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more powerful real-life stories that remind us of our shared humanity. Diane Mercer prided herself on running the tightest ship in the corporate world. As regional manager of Horizon Marketing, she'd built her reputation on efficiency, results, and an unwavering standard of excellence. Her team consistently outperformed every other branch, and her methods, though sometimes considered harsh, were undeniably effective. When Mark Sullivan joined her team 6 months ago, his resume had impressed her. Former creative director at a smaller agency, single father to a 7-year-old daughter named Emma, and recommendations that spoke of his brilliant mind and work ethic. Diane had high hopes for him. But over the past 3 months, those hopes had steadily eroded. Mark frequently arrived late, often looking exhausted. He requested early departures at least once a week. His work, while still good, lacked the spark she'd seen in his portfolio. Most concerning were the unexplained absences, days when he'd call in with vague excuses about personal matters. The marketing team was preparing for their biggest pitch of the year. The Westfield account could double their annual revenue, and Diane needed everyone operating at full capacity. She'd given Mark multiple warnings, but today's incident had pushed her over the edge. He'd missed a crucial client call, and his portion of the presentation remained incomplete. "I've scheduled a meeting with HR for tomorrow morning," Diane informed him coldly when he finally appeared at the office around noon. "This can't continue, Mark. You're letting the entire team down." Mark's face had paled. "Diane, please. I can explain." "Save it for HR," she'd cut him off. "I've heard enough excuses." The office had gone silent, everyone pretending to work while straining to hear the exchange. Diane was aware of the disapproving glances from some team members who thought she was being too harsh, but she couldn't afford to let sentiment cloud her judgment. Not with the Westfield pitch just 2 weeks away. Later that afternoon, Diane was reviewing the quarterly reports when her assistant, Jen, knocked on her door. "Mark would like to speak with you," Jen said, her expression unusually somber. "He says it's important." Diane sighed. "Send him in." Mark entered, looking more composed than he had earlier, though the dark circles under his eyes were more pronounced than ever. He carried a manila envelope. "I know you're busy," he began, "but before our meeting tomorrow, there's something you should know." He placed the envelope on her desk. "I was hoping to keep this private, but I see now that's not possible." Diane opened the envelope and pulled out several medical documents. As she read, her heart began to race. The letterhead belonged to Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. The patient name was Mark Sullivan. Diagnosis: Stage 3 Hodgkin's lymphoma. "I was diagnosed 3 months ago," Mark said quietly. "The treatments are aggressive. Chemo 3 times a week. That's why I've been." He trailed off. Diane looked up, stunned. "Why didn't you tell me?" "I didn't want special treatment. I didn't want to be seen as the sick guy. And honestly, I was afraid of losing my job. Emma's mother isn't in the picture, and my health insurance is everything right now." Diane felt as though the floor had dropped from beneath her. All those times she'd reprimanded him, questioned his commitment, made snide remarks about his priorities, while he'd been fighting for his life. "The late arrivals are because the morning treatments make me violently ill," Mark continued. "The early departures are for my afternoon sessions. And the absences." He swallowed hard. "Those are the days I simply can't get out of bed." Diane's mind raced back to all the signs she'd missed, the weight loss she'd attributed to stress, the pallor she dismissed as poor sleep habits, the times she'd caught him wincing in pain but had assumed he was just uncomfortable in meetings. "Does anyone else know?" she asked. Mark shook his head. "Just my emergency contact, Carlos in IT. He's driven me to treatments a few times when I was too weak to drive myself." Carlos, who had given Diane a particularly cold look after her confrontation with Mark earlier. Now it made sense. "I understand if you need to let me go," Mark said. "But I wanted you to know that it wasn't lack of commitment. I love my job, Diane. And I need it, not just for the insurance, but because on my good days, it reminds me that I'm more than my diagnosis." Diane felt a lump forming in her throat. She prided herself on being tough but fair. Now she wondered if she'd been neither. "The meeting with HR is cancelled," she said firmly. "And you're not going anywhere, Mark. We're going to figure this out." For the first time since he'd entered her office, Mark's shoulders relaxed slightly. "Thank you." After Mark left, Diane sat at her desk for a long time, the medical documents spread before her. She thought about her own father, who had passed away from cancer when she was in college. How he had continued working until he physically couldn't anymore, his dignity tied to his ability to provide. She thought about Emma, Mark's little girl, and what she must be going through, watching her father battle this disease. The next morning, Diane called an emergency team meeting. Mark looked nervous when he arrived, clearly unsure of what to expect. "I owe all of you an apology," Diane began, surprising everyone. "I've been so focused on our targets and metrics that I've forgotten what makes this team special, the people. Specifically, I owe Mark an apology." She looked at him, seeking permission. He gave a small nod. "Mark has been dealing with a serious health challenge," she said, careful not to share details without his consent. "And despite this, he has continued to contribute valuable work to this team. Moving forward, we're going to make some changes to ensure he can take care of his health while remaining a vital part of Horizon." The room erupted in supportive murmurs. Several colleagues immediately approached Mark, offering help with childcare, meals, and rides to appointments. Carlos, who had known all along, gave Diane an appreciative nod. Over the next 2 weeks, the team rallied around Mark in ways Diane couldn't have imagined. They reorganized the workflow to accommodate his treatment schedule. They created a meal train for his family. When Mark was too ill to come to the office, they set up video calls so he could still participate in brainstorming sessions from home. And something unexpected happened: team morale improved. The Westfield presentation came together better than anyone had anticipated, with everyone contributing their strongest work. The day before the pitch, Mark insisted on coming to the office for the final rehearsal, despite having had treatment that morning. "I wouldn't miss this," he told Diane. "This team has become like family." The Westfield pitch was a success. As they celebrated back at the office, Diane watched her team, laughing, supporting each other, functioning not just as colleagues but as a community. Mark sat in the center, looking tired but happy, his creative contributions having been crucial to their win. Later, as the celebration wound down, Mark approached Diane's office. "I wanted to thank you," he said. "For understanding. For not letting me go." "I should be thanking you," Diane replied. "You've taught me more about leadership in the past 2 weeks than I've learned in my entire career." Mark smiled. "Emma asked me to give you this." He handed her a crayon drawing of what appeared to be a superhero woman in a business suit. "She says you're helping save her dad, which makes you a hero." Diane felt tears threatening. How is she handling all of this? "Better than me, most days," Mark admitted. "Kids are resilient. But she's scared. We both are." "You don't have to be alone in this," Diane said firmly. "Not anymore." 6 months later, the Horizon marketing office gathered for their annual holiday party. The mood was especially festive this year. They'd landed 3 major accounts, including Westfield, and the team had never been stronger. Diane clinked her glass for attention. Before we continue celebrating, I have an announcement to make. She gestured for Mark to join her. Mark stood beside her, looking healthier than he had in months. The treatments had been brutal, but they were working. His prognosis was good. As many of you know, we've been working on a new company policy, Diane continued. Today, I'm proud to announce that Horizon is implementing a comprehensive medical leave program and flexible work arrangements for employees dealing with serious health issues or caring for family members. The room broke into applause. This policy, which we're calling the Sullivan Initiative, ensures that no one has to choose between their health and their job, Diane explained. And it's all thanks to Mark, who showed us that vulnerability isn't weakness, it's courage. Mark, visibly moved, addressed the team. When I was diagnosed, I thought keeping it secret was the strong thing to do. I was wrong. True strength came when I let people in, when I allowed this amazing team to support me. My doctors say I'm responding well to treatment, and I know that's partly because I haven't had to carry this burden alone. Emma, who had accompanied her father to the party, ran up to hug him. The room collectively melted at the sight. Later, as the party continued around them, Diane and Mark stood by the window, watching the snow fall over the city. You know, Diane said, a year ago, I would have said that personal issues should stay at home. That work is work, and emotions have no place in the office. And now? Mark asked. Diane looked around at her team, at Carlos teaching Emma how to properly spin in an office chair, at the marketing coordinators who had organized a fundraiser for cancer research, at the creative team that had picked up extra work without complaint when Mark needed time off. Now I know that we're not just colleagues, she said. We're human beings first. And recognizing that humanity doesn't make us weaker or less productive, it makes us stronger. Mark nodded. Emma asked me the other day if I was scared about my next scan. I told her yes, but that I wasn't facing it alone. That made all the difference to her. You're not alone, Diane affirmed. Not anymore. As the snow continued to fall outside, the Horizon marketing team celebrated not just their professional successes, but the deeper connections they'd formed. They had learned that behind every employee was a person with struggles, dreams, and needs. And in acknowledging that humanity, they had become more than a team, they had become a community. For Diane, the lesson was clear: true leadership wasn't about driving people to meet targets at any cost. It was about seeing people for who they truly were, supporting them through their challenges, and creating an environment where everyone could thrive, not despite their humanity, but because of it. And for Mark, facing an uncertain future with more treatments ahead, the knowledge that he had a team behind him made all the difference. He watched Emma laughing with his colleagues and felt, for the first time since his diagnosis, that whatever came next, they would face it together. Sometimes, the greatest challenges reveal the greatest truths. For the team at Horizon Marketing, the truth was simple but profound: compassion wasn't just good for people, it was good for business too. And in the end, it wasn't just Mark's condition that had shocked the office, it was the discovery of their own capacity for empathy, support, and genuine connection.